Hello, everyone. My name is Pete Simcock, and I'm one of the chairs of the Acquired Deafblindness Network, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Russ Palmer. And we're going to have a chat about the many ways in which Russ contributes, but with a particular focus on an area that I'll allow Russ to tell us about. So I'm just going to start, Russ, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, I was born severely deaf, and then when I was 21, I was diagnosed with Usher syndrome and RP, retinal pigmentosa. And so I grew up with hearing aids from the age of 4.5. And so that's really been my whole world, my sort of spoken language world, learning to use hearing aids. Then in 2004, had my first cochlear implant, and then the second one in 2011. And that completely changed my life. I'll talk more about that in detail later, but my professional background has really been somewhat unusual. I started off in computers, being a computer analyst programmer, which is basically designing computer systems. I'm probably referred to like a computer dinosaur because we have COBOL, PO1 and all this stuff. Nothing like the modern day stuff. Yeah, and then in, let me think, 88, I took early retirement because I had problem with the vision and the hearing, and I started to find it very difficult to follow things in the office. And in some ways, I was forced to take early retirement because I was working in local government, and things were getting more difficult. And I felt I've had enough of this. I want to get out. So in a way, there's one black cloud lifting up and another one coming down. But then I was registered deaf and blind, and nobody really was interested in deaf-blind people. Well, you're deaf and blind, you can't do anything. But music was something that's always been my hobby as a child. And I thought, well, maybe I should do something in music. Could I do it? No. I was also interested in woodwork. I thought about antique furniture restoration, did a 1-year course in that. But after 1 year, decided, no, it's not going to work because the vision changing. Of course, the local government wasn't too happy about that because they spent a lot of money on me and so on. But I was determined to try and do something in music therapy. So I went to Dartington College of Arts in Devon, Totnes, and then spent 2 years there doing studies in preparation for a music degree. And then the following year, I ended up going to Norway for 1 year and also met my wife, future wife, Rita Lufnen. And we actually met at a conference. And again, things started to change. I still had this ambition to be a music therapist. And I got involved with a project with the Sheffield University where we designed a portable music floor, which actually took part in the Millennium Dome presentation and won a special award for innovation in 2000. But in 95, I moved to Finland, and extraordinary things happened because Rita knew I wanted to do music therapy, but I thought, well, how can I do this? And the first day I arrived, she said, oh, what's your dream? Well, you know, I want to be a music therapist. Okay, I'll put you in for a course. Right, just one problem. Where? And do they speak English? Oh, no, it's all in Finnish. Okay, who's going to do the translation? Oh, I will. Fine, okay. But you don't know anything about music. Don't worry. So one thing led to another. And I thought, I must be mad doing this, but no. It's a music therapy foundation course. And I met a very nice guy called Petri Lekakainen, who was a music therapist, psychologist. And he believed in my area of how do we feel music. Because when I was in Norway for 1 year, I started to become aware of music floors, vibroacoustic floors, that sort of thing. And it's quite a wonderful experience to work with these children who had very severe disabilities. Most of them were hearing impaired, some had profound learning disabilities, but I worked with the students and I worked with the teachers, and we had a music program already for relaxation. So that's my sort of journey. And what do I do now? Well, it ranges very largely. I suppose I focus on research, write articles, academic articles, and also advise other music therapists in training, because I qualified in 1999 at Sibelius Academy as an international music therapist. Perhaps I could be the first deafblind world music therapist. I don't know. But I do know a colleague of mine from Norway said, "You must be the first deafblind music therapist." I said, "Am I? I don't know." But I just go along what I want to do. And I've always enjoyed music and I want people to enjoy it as well. So that's really my philosophy. Right, said that word.
Thanks, Russ. You've told us a lot there about your sort of journey into your current professional role, and I wondered, could you tell us what does being a music therapist involve? So what is music therapy? Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, basically, it's a process where the therapist interact with a client. Now, a client can have different problems, ranging from schizophrenic to drug alcohol abuse, you name it, communication disorders, hearing impairments, and so on. Now, for me, I was interested in trying to increase the awareness of people with a hearing impairment, how they could perhaps enjoy music in some capacity, because many music therapists have a problem trying to communicate to hearing impaired students because of the deafness aspect, the communication aspect, and so on. So music therapy is a way of being able to communicate where ordinary communication fails. And you do an interactive approaches, whether it's using instruments, singing, sing along, karaoke style, group work, or whatever. So it's different aspects of trying to identify how the problem can be solved and to increase the person's well-being.
Okay, and could you? I think you've touched on this already a little bit, Russ, but has being deafblind yourself contributed to the way that you work as a music therapist?
I think it does, because later I then qualified as a vibroacoustic therapy practitioner as an extension of music therapy. And for me, that made me aware of just how low tone frequencies respond and how the body responds to low tone frequency. And I think people who have a hearing impairment, we feel tones through our body. We feel musical pitches, vibrations. People like, for example, Evelyn Glennie, who is a deaf percussionist.
Percussionist.
That's right. She feels the music through her feet. Now, she was a person who had a hearing first and then went totally deaf. And there's been some other cases, I believe, who have had that similar experience where the hearing changes over time. So I think what I can offer for my own situation is trying to increase that awareness, how to access and how to get music therapists to understand, well, it's not just visual things. We also need to feel the vibration, feel the instruments, feel what's happening. And you know, if I take my implants off, I'm totally deaf. I cannot hear anything at all. So I become totally aware of the vibrations around me, whether it's feeling vibrations from an orchestra and so on. And I can remember working with an opera singer once in Italy, where she was singing directly behind me, and I had my implants off, and I didn't know exactly where she was standing, and she started to sing in certain pitches. And I'm not joking, I could feel her singing voice go right through my spine. It's an incredible sensation. And that made me very aware, oh, there is something here. Now, many times I get student music therapists asking me a question, well, I have a hearing impaired student here, but how can I apply music? I'm not getting any response. So I try to advise other students who are studying music therapy to apply different approaches so they can understand and to interact with their students or clients.
Mm-hmm. Do you think I'm really interested in sort of all the you mentioned earlier, sort of the different groups of people that you were working with, and it made me think about how when we think about sort of different groups of people and cultural, I've often heard sort of reference to sport and music as being the sort of the shared language, that even if we can't speak the same language, or even if we have different things, the one thing that often brings people together is music. Do you think that more needs to be done or could be done in exploring the ways that music can include deafblind people rather than exclude, and ensure that we share the joys of music with those people?
Oh, definitely. I've had many deafblind people who, for whatever reason, either they've been born severely deaf like myself or have lost their hearing suddenly. And those particular ones that have lost their hearing remember what music was like, but now cannot get that same experience. And for them, it may be very important to still remember some artists they remember during that time. And I think that's a very crucial element there, trying to make that awareness of how can we perceive musical vibrations, how can we perceive musical experience through movements, through the arts, even drawing through what you feel, through the vibrations using different equipment facilities. Even like this device here, which is a Bose Soundware device, which has had speakers here, and it's Bluetooth, and it's connected to my iPad, and that's how I hear your voice. But if I can also play music through this, through my playlist, and it's a wonderful sensation. You can feel the vibrations on your shoulder. And similarly, like if you're going to a concert, or when I'm giving a performance, I use a hat, something like this. Now, why do I use a hat? Because when I put it on my head, it deflects the unwanted sound. So it actually amplifies the sound so I can hear my own voice if I'm singing, or if I'm playing the guitar, or if I'm with the band members and so on. And I know children, particularly those who use cochlear implants, find this fascinating because, oh, we've got a new hat, we can try different styles, sombrero, sort of whatever, you know, or gangster. You know, so I mean, kids really get into this, and they think, "Oh, this is interesting. This is cool, man." You know, I'm going to be with black, dark glasses. You know? So, yeah, I think cochlear implants don't. It also lends itself to accessibility for young children to develop their useful hearing. But there again, we also need to think about what about those deaf people who do not use any hearing aids or any devices? They may not want to. Fair enough. That said, they may not have possibilities to use those devices. However, we have sign language, and sign language itself is a very beautiful language. And there are some people who use sign songs. They may do sign performances in such a way that really brings out the artistic element. And that arts, sign language, music, and so on, it's all combined together. No matter, you can't isolate these things.
Do you think that's sort of come through? I don't know if you'd agree in your own life, because it's obviously you're very in an arts world as a music therapist, but you've talked about sort of technology increasing, and then sort of your own background in computer, so sort of science and arts. Do you think we do need to be drawing on all these disciplines to support other people?
I think there's a role for technology, even though, like I said, I come from a computer background, but I always use computer technology as useful tools to enhance or improve my quality of sound or my sound perception of what I'm hearing or perceiving. And there is a role for technology to play, but I think there's a danger when I start to listen to conventional hi-fi music system where you have two speakers and a CD player, or even vinyls now. I've been very surprised by how much I can hear the difference between a vinyl recording and a CD recording. The quality is quite amazingly different. You don't get the same sort of depth for some reason. And for me, technology does have a role to play, but we also need to be respectful about the traditional technology that's still there and the sort of traditional music medium that we've been using before, because there are, I think, there is a definitely big role there to play. And it's also a learning curve for people who are maybe using cochlear implants, who want to develop their musicality even more in such a way they want to perhaps explore that sound. They want to explore their own voice and so on. There's many areas now, and I think it's very, very important. Yeah.
You mentioned, I mean, it's very clear that the sort of huge contribution that you have made in the lives of others professionally. So not only your own role as music therapist, but now as advisor to other music therapists. And working with all these different groups and working with professionals and working in research. But you mentioned earlier that you'd always been interested in music. So I guess I wanted to ask, leaving the professional side behind, personally, music. So what music do you like yourself? What music do you enjoy the most listening to? And do you play yourself? You mentioned a guitar. Could you tell us about the role music has in your personal life as well as professional?
Yes, I mean, like I said, music's always been within the family because my father was a semi-professional singer, and he used to have some beautiful hi-fi systems playing all this wonderful music. And so I learned personally to learn the violin when I was 8, which I didn't get on with. And then when I was 10, because it was too high frequency pitch, I just didn't get on with it. I had to be in a group. And I'm not knocking violin players, but in my mind, to be playing the violin on your own, unless you really develop to a high standard, it's not very pleasant to learn on. Whereas a piano, you play that sound, you get it straight away, and then you just learn with that, and you can explore on your own. So the piano was really my main instrument, and then I did the guitar, and then I did the electronic organ, where you have 2 manuals and bass pedals and a rhythm unit. And I started to feel rhythms through my body, because the organ music and the speakers are below, you can really feel that come through. So I began to develop my sense of rhythm. But then I was still interested to get into a classical orchestra. How could I get into a classical orchestra? And then when I was 14, I took up the double bass. Because father used to play double bass, and so he taught me a little bit, and then I taught myself. And then electric bass guitar to play in a jazz group here and there in different ensembles. One of the funniest times I had was when I was asked to do one particular gig one time playing bass guitar. And I said, I was there in the evening, I said, where's the music? Oh, we don't have music. We use plastic. How are we going to do this? Because I have a slight hearing impairment, very noisy. Oh, don't worry. We'll just say C for Charlie, or C for this, C for that. And I was quite surprised. I had to tell them that, could you please just say C for Charlie, G for girl, because I cannot hear the C and the G, for example. So, if I'm playing a C chord or G chord, there's quite a big difference. F chord is easy to hear, or D chord, but D is still a little bit tricky, especially when you miss out the consonant sounds. So that was a bit of a challenge. And the guitar thing, I used to, well, firstly, I suppose I was influenced by Paul Simon and Garfunkel.
Okay.
Because a lot of finger picking stuff, what we call the floor style, was also very interesting, and developing different finger picking styles, and rock and roll, of course. And Glenn Campbell, John Denver, Don Williams, country western, a bit of this and a bit of middle road and so on. And I suppose the main group, Beatles, of course, played a big thing for me. I mean, apparently when I was about 4, before I had the hearing aids, my mother and father gave me a toy guitar, a plastic one. I could see Top of the Pops there and going, she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. So so I couldn't hear myself, but I should just follow what they were saying. Yeah, yeah, because you could get that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's easy to follow. And like a very old-fashioned tune called "My Boomerang Won't Come Back" by Charlie Drake. My father bought me a single on that, and I could follow the "My Boomerang Won't Come Back, My Boomerang Won't," because it's repeated. Things like this. So Beach Boys was also my main group, I suppose, I was influenced by because of a sound and what they created. I mean, all due respect to the Beatles, I mean, I like the Beatles, yes, but when I heard the Beach Boys, wow, this new sound. They had harmony, they had interesting chords. And when I started to work out these chords, it became, oh, this is interesting. Major seventh, major ninths, and so on. So yeah, that expanded my musicality. Instrumental music, John Barry, like who did things like Born Free, 007 stuff, you know, the beautiful string arrangements. It's wonderful. And I that helps to relax me on many occasions. Henry Mancini, some of his beautiful arrangements, like the Pink Panther theme and stuff. And playing the piano, he had a Lovely Star, and she did 2 albums, Henry Mancini's pianos. And so there are different styles that have been influenced, and popular music like Sky, for example, that's the group that has professional musicians playing together. And I may be a bit old-fashioned here, but you know, I still like Carpenters. I particularly like Carpenters because of the harmony, because of the nice sound of it. If I'm too busy, I just cannot follow it. I suppose that's a very important stylistic comparison. When if the music's too busy, you just cannot follow the style in the same sort of way. But you can learn something. You play on the piano, work it out. So you can. If you're painting a picture. That's what my teacher used to tell me. Try and think if you're painting a picture. The trouble is, I used to break all the rules of classical convention because if I take one particular piece, like a very old-fashioned piece called Sleepy Shores, which is by Johnny Pearson, the music was, when you look at the music in the left hand, it's very sort of bum 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 bum. But when you listen to the record, you have a lovely Alberti bass, you da 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 da. So it gives a much more deeper. So you add that in. And I got told off by one of my music teachers. Players it should have been played. I said no, I prefer the other one. So I suppose I was a bit of a rebel. But, why not? You know, you never know what's happened. Um,
So
and,
you
yeah,
mentioned you obviously sort of multi-instrumental and you perform and sing. Have you recorded as a performer, Russ?
yes, I mean that's extremely an interesting. It really started, I think, in 2001. I did my first demo recording of actually Rita's song, which is called "Come Back to Me," and through meeting a guy at Norway called John Rossland, he said, "What sort of songs you written?" Because I wrote my first song when I was 14, and my father wrote the words for it. It's called "You and I," and I was influenced by a bit romantic, I suppose. I used to write love songs and stuff like this. "If You Go," "When My Girlfriend Left Me," and all this stuff, you know, which took me about 5 minutes. I came home from a gig one evening. So I started to build up all these songs. And so Jon suggested, well, sing, let's have a look at this, Come Back to Me. So we actually did a demo of that. And after a couple of whiskies, getting Dutch courage and so on, he persuaded me, well, come on, let's go and have a go. Okay, come back to me, I need your love. And this is with the hearing aids, bear in mind. So my pitch wasn't perfect, but it was not bad. I mean, I worked with the pitch, and I did join the choirs as well. So I did have that sort of training, but my perception of singing was not as good as it is now. So yes, I did that first demo, and then I did in 2003 Reflections, which is really what I call BCI, before cochlear implant. Then 2004 I did I had my cochlear implant operation because I was afraid I'd not be able to sing or play music again after that cochlear implant operation. And that was a turning point. That was quite a unsettling period of time. And of course, later, after I had my first cochlear implant, I noticed I started to hear rhythms, pitches, people's voices better, and so on. And that became a totally new world. So I said to my producer that, oh, can we re-record all the songs, please? He said, you're joking. I said, no. Because I can hear so much better. And I said, what's all that percussion sound? well, don't you like it? I said, I love it because I didn't hear it before. So I started to re-record my music, and I did this album called Warm Summer Days. And this is after ACI. And that's quite extraordinary because one particular song, You and I used to sing You and I, walking happy together, because I couldn't hear the pitch. But now when I sing it, You and I, walking happy together, so I can actually hear the pitch better. And when you compare between those two albums, it's quite enormously different in the way I'm singing. And of course, a friend of mine was retiring, and she said, oh, I'd like you to do something special for me, like a concert. What sort of concert? Well, what would you like to do? Now, this is in Finland, okay? Now, there's a big Finlandia Hall, which is part of Sibelius Hall, and it's probably like the Royal Festival. I said, well, what about Finlandia Hall? Let me have a think about it. And she came back to me a couple of days later and said, yeah, we can do that. Right, I want to do the proper job. I want to have a band. I had about 6 months to do this. And my friend Juha, who's my colleague who plays the guitar with me, I said, buddy, you need to find me some musicians. No problem, I can find them. So we got some young musicians, half my age. And I can tell you the first rehearsal we did, I said, pardon the expression, but am I mad or something? Am I mad? Anyway, and my interpreter at that time was helping me. And said, no, you can do it, you can do it. So she was great. And I know Rita was also saying, yes, you can do it, So we went there and we did rehearsal 6 months, and lo and behold, we did a concert performance at the Finlandia Hall in 2012 with the band for the first time. And I actually got this DVD together called Musical Perception of a Deafblind Cochlear Implant User. Now, this is a very off-the-cuff documentary, totally unrehearsed, but the best bits are beautiful. I mean, the guy said to me, we've got enough material to do a documentary, 1 hour documentary. You're joking? Yeah, of course. And I had these certain questions for my fellow musicians, Rita's there, and colleagues of mine are there. And then some extra abstracts from the actual concert. And it was wonderful to do that because I had a focus of attention to thinking what to do and how to get them. And it was just amazing experience. I shall never forget it. And I still do performance now. In fact, last year was one of the last performances I did back in March before the coronavirus started, which you can see on my website, which is russpalmer.com.
Brilliant. So I think just to bring it to a close, it's been lovely to hear the sort of how central music really has been from, you talked about, I'm just smiling about the plastic guitar as a child and singing along to the Beatles, and sort of your parents and your dad encouraging you, but hearing, your professional sort of contributions as music therapist and that work, but also as composer, as recording artist, as performer, and in many ways really. And so just to finish, I wondered if I could ask you of any thoughts you would like to share with anybody else really that is perhaps living with acquired deafblindness, who's interested in music but not sure what to do or how to sort of pursue that. And music in, not just professionally, personally, but particularly in instances where people are perhaps encountering perspectives or barriers suggesting that music isn't for deafblind people. Could you offer any thoughts about that? Because clearly it's been such a big part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind that I appreciate not everybody is musical, and it's probably only a few people perhaps who are particularly interested. And I have some deafblind friends of mine who are very musical. One's a classical pianist, and one's very much into improvisations and stuff like this. If you wanted to do something like that, I think it depends on the person, what they actually want out of music. If they want to experience music again, if they've had their hearing and lost their hearing, then that particular aspect could be just having the musical experience, for example. But if they're thinking of playing an instrument, it's perhaps they've already started playing an instrument when they're younger and they haven't picked up the guitar or piano or other instrument for many years. And I think if they are interested, why not ask a teacher to maybe give you the basics if you want to pursue just getting the basics there, depending on style of music, if you want to be a classical person or if you want to be a popular music and so on. I suppose if you want to do popular music, the guitar is very quick and easy, just a few chords and so on, and you'll be surprised. I think these days people in music teaching business will be very flexible according to your needs. And you just need to tell them, look, I cannot hear or see you so well, so you might need to take more time at this. And you'll be surprised. People do take their time and give you the space and give you the, you know, the understanding. Okay, how can I help you here? And we have the technology now to do this. And in some way, the technology is better than it ever been when I was young. You know, they can enlarge print, they can sort of increase, if you can't see something, you CCTV have magnifiers and so on. So it's amazing. I think it is possible to do things. It just depends which direction you want to go. If you're thinking of becoming a professional musician, then there might be more challenges. You know, from my point of view, I don't treat my musical my personal music thing as a professional because I know it's very difficult to become a so-called professional musician. If you're playing in a group, you have to be able to do this very quickly. And if you're trying to sight read, you know, you've got to really understand it's not going to be easy. But if you just want to enjoy it as a hobby, that's probably my best advice. Enjoy it as a hobby, just get enjoyment, be able to relax, and you can get a lot of enjoyment just meeting with other people, jamming with other people, and so on. And it doesn't necessarily have to be professional; it just be as a hobby. Keep it as a hobby. That's my advice. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Russ. And thank you for spending the time with me. Really, you know, it's been I've really enjoyed it as a fan of music myself. It's really lovely to hear the role it's played in your life. You mentioned your website, Russ. Could you just give us that website address again if
Yes,
people
sure.
want to have a look?
Yes, www.russpalmer.com. And I don't know if it's worth it. If you want me to sing off with one of the first chords of the Deafblind Blues, just to sign off.
Please do. So Russ is going to finish with one of his own. We're getting a real interlude here of both composition and performance. So to end this video, Russ, take it away for us.
I'm a man that can hear, a man that can see, but this doesn't matter 'cause I feel the blues, oh yeah. Singing the Deafblind Blues. Baby, I can do this. Oh, Deafblind Blues. So, thanks for listening. I'm signing off right now. Thank you. Russ
Thanks
Palmer.
so much, Russ. Bye-bye now.
Fine.